And we're live.
Welcome back to Incite Club. Today we're talking about outsourcing your truth. Stay tuned for this conversation. The first rule of Incite Club is you don't talk about Incite Club. You do Incite Club. The second rule of Incite Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Incite Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Incite Club.
And you ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
So before we jump into today's topic, I want to circle back on our topic from last time. And we were talking about being led by our desires and our needs and our wants and really allowing for needs and wants. And I don't have a particular story around this, but I have just been paying attention with my cats as my teachers and really feeling so much more aligned with the things I'm doing kind of day to day and moment to moment, that I'm being led by my desires. So that's my update. Do you have any updates on allowing your needs to really be met?
I completely forgot the topic as it has been happening. But yeah, I feel like I've been allowing my needs and my desires to lead quite a lot. And the beautiful thing about this is that it leads to that aligned action, that momentum that we all want to get to. Uh, and the truth is, sometimes it is like my body is really needing some rest right now, or I I want to like do something right now. Like for me, like creating is so often the case, but like I want to create right now. I don't want to wait until the next day, so I'm gonna do it now. Yeah, this is following that as well, and that can lead to some z- less sleep than I should, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, sometimes there's that energy and it's like, where does this even come from? Because I haven't been sleeping, I'm just so immersed in that. But there's a flame, there's an energy, there's a fuel
Yeah.
source that comes from creating, and it doesn't mean we don't need good rest and good food, but there's an energy sometimes that just compels you. That's what I've
Yeah.
found.
Yeah, I feel like when we're following our desires, our needs, uh, we get less tired even if we are doing more sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes less, because we are using the fuel when we have it and not like forcing ourselves to have the energy in the moment that we think we need to have. Uh,
Yes.
and we have less frustration as well because like we were talking just before hopping in here, and you asked about the concert we had as well. When we came back, it's so natural after you have such a high
Yeah.
that you're going to have a low, and it feels like I want to go back, and instead of being that rut of like that was awesome and just like um allowing the low to happen, we actually decided let's go on a walk in the city at
Mm.
night, and that was such a good way to like transition from that super high to like let's just be nostalgic right now and enjoy the moment, and then go back to our lives. Yeah.
You are speaking my language. I love that. And I've struggled for so long in my life with peak highs and low lows. And it's that what to do with the excess peak energy, or after, like what to do after a peak, that makes all of the difference for
Mhm.
me. And Yeah, I'm just put in mind of my pressure cooker, right? Like it cooks. I have an Instant Pot and it cooks the thing, and then before you can take off the lid, you have to press this release valve, and the steam
Mm.
comes out. Right? So it's like, okay, the rice is cooked, but you can't open this lid yet. We got to let the steam out. And man, sometimes it takes a really long time. I like to make chicken soup in the Instant Pot, and when you press the release, it's like 3, 4, 5 minutes that it's just sitting there letting off the steam. And it's an important part of the process to
Yeah, some
like
form of release.
reintegration. I really, oh, I'm gonna hold on to that as a nugget.
Be like a steam pot.
Yeah. One thing that does come up is the connection with following desires. And I was asking myself while in meditation, I like to ask myself questions in meditation because then you get a different answer.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh, am I
True.
mellow? And I asked, how often would I be sharing about my work and my programs if I wasn't worried what people thought? And the answer was like all the damn time. Like that's all I would talk about. And then so I went on this like I went into this kind of dialogue, this dialectic with myself, like,
Mm.
well, where does it come from to not care what people think? And I got to a root of it. And it turns out it's not actually, I don't care what people think. It's just that I'm in so much joy, I don't even notice the other people. So I'm not taking in their
Mm.
opinions and saying, oh, well, I don't care, or you don't matter, or trying to put up a wall like, I'm so confident,
Yeah.
it's just I literally don't notice. And I thought of a moment in time where like that's really emblematic for me, where I was in so much joy, I didn't notice somebody trying to like detract from my joy. And I bring that up
I've
because
seen that.
yeah, I bring that up because it's like, oh, that's following my desire in a really tangible way. And because I help other people to create content, like I'm always exploring these things for myself that I'm then passing on to my clients, right? Like how could you get into that state where you just want to share all of the time about whatever your
Mm.
offering is? um so it's like this doubly significant thing for me. Like I'm solving it for myself and I'm solving it for clients, or help giving them tools and options. But I just I want to kind of just tack that on to my thinking about the conversation about desire and needs and following those. um when I am in joy, it is so obvious and so easy to follow my needs and desires.
Yeah. I feel like it happens to me when I'm leaving it. And it happened just yesterday after the sisterhood call. I felt like I want to share the exact words from their experience because this is what this is about. So, yeah, that I haven't shared yet, but that's one thing. I agree completely with you. Like when we are in such a joy that there's nothing that can take away from it. But what you said also made me think of what it is that makes me not share sometimes. And I noticed that at these days is not so much like what people are going to think, but more like this is something that I care so much that I actually want people to pay attention. And my ego is saying, like, you need to get the perfect time so that people will see this, or you need to frame this in the right way so that people will listen. And then I end up losing momentum sometimes for overthinking when would be the best time for the message to be received when it's not in my hands who's going to
Yeah.
receive the message.
Oh, that's so important. Yeah, it's an outcome of any kind, an
Yeah.
external outcome of any kind that can stop us. And for some of us, or for sometimes it might be like, what will people think of me? Or it might be, is this really going to land and be effective? Or, any other number of things. But it's that worry about how it will be received
Yeah.
and wanting to. I just had this funny image of like, imagine an archer who was like, I really want to make sure my arrow hits the target. So instead of releasing it from the bow, she releases it from the bow and then she runs and she grabs onto it and holds it. And tries to carry it to the target. And of course, by the time it got to the deer, like it wouldn't, there's no way
Yeah,
you're you're a good hunter.
it
Um,
won't work.
yeah, I'll be in control. I'll take this arrow exactly where it needs to go.
Yeah. Uh, mm.
Nice.
It's a good imagery too.
I love it. I appreciate that my brain gives me stories and images because they really then
Yeah.
that's what I can hold on to.
Mm.
So it's a way of coming. We've talked a lot about cosmic laughter and coming into a place of being able to laugh at yourself with love, not with derision, but like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And those images, those stories do that for me. So I like it.
Just to sum up what we were saying before we get into the topic from today, I feel like we touched on two main things that us as humans we want from our legacy, our experience. One is to be accepted, to be loved, and that's the fear of how this is going to be received. And the other is to not to be noticed, to not be ignored, to be someone, to
Make a
be seen.
difference. Yeah,
Yeah,
for the world to be different because we're here, for people to be
yeah.
impacted. That's huge. Gosh, maybe maybe this is our topic for today, but there's just so many things sparking. At the beginning of the year, I felt into what's my word for the year. And it was root. And I like
Rude.
root, yeah. And I like to do these little illustration, just kind of drawing like um free flowing exploratory doodling, I guess. What does that mean? And I had all these thoughts around means I'm rooted. I moved last December, so I'm in a new place. It's like I'm setting down roots and creating a garden, and I'm connecting with farmers and other people who are roots and all of this. And it didn't strike me until just the last few weeks that holy moly, this has been a year of healing my root chakra. Like, oh, no wonder so many things have come up that have forced me to pay attention to the fact that if I don't feel safe, I can't create. And that I still am, you know, rebuilding a lot of safety in my root. And what put me in mind of this is what you said, like this human need of to be accepted. That's my root chakra talking, right? Please, I need to be loved and accepted. My sister, who is a teacher trainer, she works in a
Mm.
Montessori school where she sometimes is in classrooms, but mostly trains teachers. She just posted this really cool thing that was it's like the child first will ask, am I loved? Am
Mm.
I seen? Oh, I'm getting the questions wrong. And then if the answer has to be yes. Oh no, am I safe? Am I loved? And only when the answer is yes to both, then can learning happen. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
it's so true. And I just really feel I've been living that this year.
Wow. Mm. That you're gonna ask about the moments that were big for me during the call. I'm gonna tell you already. This is something that made me think quite a lot, especially now
Mm.
teaching younger kids as well. I was like,
Mm.
yeah, that's what makes the difference. Mm.
Yeah. Why else would we be available in our intellect and open? Learning takes vulnerability because we're saying, I don't know and I want to know. And usually young kids have a lot of that vulnerability. But the older we get and the more our sense of identity is built up, and also the more you're in a kind of standardized school setting where there is one right answer, um, the harder it can become to have that vulnerability. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm celebrating that my root chakra is talking to me, getting what she needs, and then we can move the energy up.
And
Um,
learning bad habits.
Say again, and learning
Unlearning bad habits.
unlearning bad habits. Yeah. So maybe that's a great segue actually around learning because this idea of outsourcing our truth, I think, is absolutely a learned behavior. So here's what sparked it. I've been reading it for months and months and months and months and months because I read like one chapter at a time as a beautiful meditation. But I'm reading the book Braiding Sweetgrass. Do you know that one?
No.
It's it's phenomenal. Everybody should read this book. It's written by a woman who is steeped in like traditional indigenous American teachings and is also a botanist. And so she's writing about old growth forests and harvesting sweetgrass and making baskets and cedar trees and all just different kinds of lovely moments and trying to make a pond on her property and all of the algae and the life and the stuff. And
Yeah.
each chapter is just like this beautiful story and meditation about interacting with the earth
Mhm.
and different perspectives. So she has this shared perspective of like, I'm a botanist and I know the Latin name for this, but she takes her university classes out into the swamp to gather the stuff, to make the long hut, like to be out in the field. And she talks about the plants being the teachers. And for some reason, when I was reading a chapter this morning about somebody who was trying to reestablish, like in the Pacific Northwest, where these old growth cedar forests have been clear cut, he just got this passion, this idea that he wanted to plant an old growth forest. And he goes to apply to, buy the land, and he's got to fill out paperwork. And the paperwork says, well, because this is timberland, you have to tell us exactly what your plan is. And he goes, huh, they didn't call it forest. They called it timberland, as if its only job, like as if trees' only purpose is to be cut down and used for wood. And I just
Mm.
was kind of taking this all in and going, that's learned. That's something we passed on. And that's something that we would take as an absolute truth, right? It's a government form, like this is timberland. And we have the choice to outsource our truth. We have the choice to just say, like, yep, that's it. That's reality, and this is how it goes, and that's what trees are for, is just paper. And um, or we have the option to say, wait, I'm walking through this forest and my heart is speaking to me. And my lived experience is this is life all around me. And
Mm.
it's like this one small part of our lives is interacting with nature. But my question is, how often and how many ways are we allowing a truth that we might feel deeply within us, like in our heart, in our gut, in our body, to be overridden by a cultural truth, a commercial truth, an economic
Governmental
truth?
truth.
Oh, what kind? What'd you say?
Governmental truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I don't know if that sparks anything for you.
It does. It does. Actually, as you were speaking this, I was thinking of how many things are outsourced, and actually, what comes to me is how much of this is social experiment.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm gonna question one simple thing that everyone usually accepts. Like in US, you just changed the time for winter
Yeah.
time,
We
right?
ended daylight savings time, so now we're
And
back to normal time, standard time, yeah.
and this is a socially accepted thing, right? Everyone, okay, from now on, time changed, and we are 1 hour earlier or 1 hour later, and so on, depending on when it's the change.
Yeah.
But the sun didn't change its movement.
Yeah.
It's still right on top of our heads at noon, and the time didn't change. It's still noon when the sun is right on top of our heads. But as humans in society, we're so disconnected from nature and from looking at up, from looking at the sky,
Yeah.
that everyone is like, oh yeah, it's good for economy. it's okay when actually we are deregulating our circadian rhythms, and it doesn't really save much, and it's just socially accepted. And then it gets me thinking how many things are social experiment to see how much we accept a narrative just because this is going to be like everyone does it, everyone use this, so it's okay. In Brazil we don't have the daylight time savings anymore, and I was so happy with it.
Yeah.
um, but I know that most places on earth
It's
have
it's
it, and they have
really, really bad for us. I mean, it leads to massive sleep disruptions. I've talked to a doctor about this, and she's livid. Like, she's like, "I can't." I know your mom's a doctor. I don't know if she has opinions about this, but the person I was speaking to has put all these years of study into like circadian rhythm regulation and how to like help your body uh, be in its natural circadian rhythm. And she's livid. She can't believe that this is still a thing we do. And two things to what you were saying. We're told it's a benefit and we have to do it, yes, and it's the normal. And the second, if we would for a moment ask whom does this benefit and how, the answer we would get would be, oh, well, it was instituted to help farmers to have more daylight at the end of the day so kids could still go to school and come home and help on the farm. Is that still a thing we need? Is that how families are structured? Is that how farms run? No, they're all run by massive machinery and it's mechanized and they have huge floodlights. You can run a tractor or a combine at night. Like it's not a it's not a need anymore. But at a certain point, and so many people hate it, complain about it, feel so disoriented, so tired. I mean, you don't have to even talk to a doctor to know it's disruptive. Like your own personal experience says, this is disorienting. I don't know what's going on. And for us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is that time of year when the days get shorter, and that alone is stressful. But it's extra. It's like a plane and you get jet lag, right? Because you're getting that change all in like one big lump instead of it just happening slowly.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, now all of a sudden it's I notice how much darker it is because the time changed, even though it would be getting darker naturally. But where do we like? So we have the discomfort, like this. I don't like the system, and we just kind of funnel it into like memes or maybe watching more Netflix instead of turning around and going, why are we doing this? Who does this benefit? And I think you're right on that. So many things are like experiments to see how far can we push people, how quickly can we change people's minds. Oh my gosh, the I forget the number, but the like millions of, I don't know, maybe more than that were put into researching in the US, how could we get everybody to take the COVID vaccine? The amount of market research that was put into what's the exact language. And it wasn't a matter of let's present all of the facts possible. No, it was the marketing research was like, what's more effective? If we guilt people, if we attack people who don't take it, if we, it was
How can
all.
we manipulate people?
Say again? Yeah, it was
How can we
manipulation.
manipulate people?
It
Yeah.
was based on manipulation. So it wasn't anything about like, okay, if we present this rational argument, if we take like, if you really want to explain things to people, you think about like, okay, I got to start with what they know and I'll give them background information and I'll help them understand this and I'll answer their questions here. That's not where the money was put. The money was put into what form of coercive manipulation, like making people feel guilty, making people attack one another, is going to be most effective. And wow, like, and that's
Divide to
one
conquer.
that's
Divide.
one specific example, but it's happening all the time. How can we shift people without asking, is it moral, is it ethical?
There's
Will this
no
create strife and conflict.
there's not even need for that much research on this. The divide and conquer
Yeah.
mode of action worked since like years and years ago. That's
Yes.
what most governments do when they're usually running out of money and needing a war or needing some kind of conflict to derail the
Well,
attention to
no,
something else.
so in my country, we don't wait till we're running out of money to start a war. We just have a war going on all the time so we can get kickbacks from
Then
our
you're safe.
friends in the military industrial complex. Look, we're thinking ahead. We're not waiting until the coffers get low. We're just continually creating a war so that
That's
we get those
genius.
kickbacks. Oh my god.
Speaking of outsourcing your truth, I'm gonna circle back for a moment to the circadian rhythm and like how we can, if we, this is one of the things like I feel like the whole system is meant to keep people disconnected from their own bodies and their own minds so that they we don't question and we don't really feel what's okay and what's not, because when, and you know, we work with human design, we work with our astrology, we do meditations to get more conscientious and really pay attention to more what's going on and how we feel, what's a yes and what's a no for us. And the more we connect with our bodies, we sense the bullshit. We can smell like that. Oh yeah, this is yes. This is this is not feeling right. This
Yeah.
is no for me. And fear is another thing that often makes us outsource the decisions and outsource the truth,
Yeah.
because it puts us, you were talking about the root, right? If we have fear, then we're not safe, we're not rooted, then we tend to not be able to listen to our gut, literally,
Mm.
which is at that bottom. We're not able to really listen if it is this okay for me, or am I being coerced to something, am I doing something just because everyone is doing, or it's the safest thing for me to do, it's the safest thing for me to say, is the safest way for me to think about something. So I want to get on something that we talked about in here already, that nobody has fears around, which is the time, daylight time savings. And just feel for your body as you are transitioning to a different time, how it feels, and if it feels natural or if it feels like that's actually not the best thing for me. So we can incite our audience to listen to your truth instead of outsourcing it, before we even get to talking about how other things are outsourced.
Yeah. Well, here's something that's super, super messed up. So we fell back to what's called standard time. So this is the time, and all time is a construct, right? But this is the time that was going on before the advent of daylight savings time. So for me, this is like, yes, this is the normal time. This is my preferred time because yes, it gets dark earlier. But the if people want me to be like a functioning human and the sun's not up, I don't think that's really cool. Like for my circadian rhythm. And we were getting to a time where it was like before the time change, when we were still on daylight savings time, it would be after 7 o'clock in the morning and the sun still would not be up. Like, this is not friendly for my body. And there's conversations about being an early bird or a night owl, and I spent like the early part of my life feeling like a night owl. The reality is when our systems are functioning well, we get cortisol in the morning when the light comes, and then melatonin in the evening. And like, that's how, I'm not saying if you stay up late it's you're a bad human, but like, this is how our systems evolved, right? This is what's really supportive for our systems. So now that the time has changed, there's a lot of people being very angry about this artificial time that's making it dark earlier. So trusting our own truth and trusting our bodies gets totally hijacked because there's confusion about which was the standard way and which was the artificial way, right? Some people think the time change we just had is the artificial construct. I
Mhm.
mean, it's all an artificial but some people think
It
this is
is.
like the trade. I'm like, no, this is setting it back and taking away that thing. But because it's such a disruptive change, now we can get people to despise the thing that is, I'll put natural in quotes because time is saying it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Mother Nature's like, what are you talking about? I didn't put numbers on this shit, right? But like we just went back to what was the time schedule that served humans for lots and lots of years, and people are mad at it thinking it's the new disruptive thing.
Yeah,
Is that making sense?
it does. And even when things change, um, I'm gonna go back to the social experiment in here.
Yeah.
It's interesting when one truth was said the whole time, and then suddenly the narrative changes, and they're still expecting that people are going to follow that. I'm thinking of this because it's it's like we got you to believe this, and now we're changing to see if you're still going to follow, or if you're going to trust that first, doesn't matter if it's true or lie, thing
Right.
that we said. And that happens in so many things. I can think of health things. I can think of
Think about
politics.
eggs. Think about eggs. Doesn't it
uh,
seem like every 5 years,
butter.
eggs are gonna kill you, and then 5 years later, it's like eggs are the miracle food, and it just keeps going back and forth.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I was thinking, but I also thought of um, politics.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
You keep priming me. You keep priming me.
I told you can talk if you want, or we can keep
Yeah.
it for the next call. Next.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll just put it out there. And so living in the United States, as long as I've been alive and for as long as Israel has been a country, the United States has been an amazingly supportive has had an amazingly supportive stance on Israel, right? And the language has always been this is, you know, a country that was created for people who have been persecuted for millennia, and this is so important, and we need to support Israel. That's been the rhetoric. What's been behind the scenes? What's the, you know, is there a financial or economic or military motive for being great allies with Israel? I'm not even going to touch that. I'm just talking about what's presented as the narrative. And within the last few weeks, the narrative has completely shifted to Israel as an aggressor. And I'm not speaking to any of our motives behind the scenes or even what is truthfully happening for people on the ground in the Gaza area right now. I can't speak to any of that. I'm not there. I don't have any experience in this, but just the narrative has shifted incredibly rapidly. Now the narrative in the US, what's acceptable to say on social media, what you hear companies saying in terms of where they're putting their support, what you hear politicians saying is Israel is an aggressor and it's the Palestinians that we need to have support for. So you take something that's been a like part of the American zeitgeist for 50 years, more than that, and it changed in a matter of weeks. And I'm judging the change based on the um so you hear from voices in power, like you hear from political voices and CEOs and heads of companies, but you hear it now on social media said by the average person. This opens up a whole other question, which is like, how many of those social media posts are actually not a real person, but are, you know,
Yeah.
funded by somebody who's part of this larger power structure? I don't know. I got no clue on that. But there's enough coming from people I know are people on
Yeah.
social media, put it that way. Like I know you're a person, I know you in real life. That it's clear that the zeitgeist has moved. And I'm like, this is like taking a tanker and turning it like a full 180 degrees like that. And I'm just watching it happen in real time and feeling heartbroken for the tragedy that's unfolding and feeling very sad about this continuous war machine. I was joking about it earlier, but this just is how the US like
Yeah.
operates, right? There's constantly a war somewhere. Um
And for
and all
anyone
of that,
who, oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
all of that separate to just this is an example of a narrative, a zeitgeist changing. And of course, what puts me immediately in mind of is 1984, because the announcements that go out are, we are at war with East Asia, and we have always been at war with East Asia. But then 2 weeks later, it's, we are at war with, I don't remember the names. He's got like different names for the continents than we use, but he's like, no, we are at war with the other one, and we have always been at war with that. And the important part of that statement is, we have always been, so that people in
Rewriting the
power,
story.
yeah, people in power are saying, no, 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 no. We have never been in support of that. We have always said this was right and that was wrong. Um, that's a a total mind fuck. And then you go, okay, I can't trust what I thought I knew, because I thought I remembered when the United States was incredibly pro-Israel. Nope, I must be mistaken. I can't trust myself.
Yeah. And again, passing the truth to the government to decide. I just wanted to add one thing. First of all, thank you for talking about this. And I want to tell in here for anyone who might feel like, oh, but we shouldn't be talking about this. And what this podcast is about is inciting questions, is inciting the discussion, is the ability of for us to question and to like think, to have our own points of view, have our own ideas about things, to search for the truth and let the truth set us free, and even to change our minds in some moments, but always with transparency, always with that desire to come to oneness, to come to like love between humans. And um, this is not a love is not about agreeing with everything that the other says, is about allowing the other to be and
Yeah.
to have its own experience in this life.
Thank you for that. For me, such a huge part of the conversations we have here, ladies, are about healing the schism in myself that occurs when I say, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. And the fear, and I'm put in mind of the story, The Emperor's New Clothes, and how it's a
Mhm.
child who's not afraid to say, that guy's naked, right? And every adult is relating to the situation from a place of fear I won't be accepted, or maybe fear I'll lose, my status, or so many different fears. But when we have a fear that says, this doesn't make sense to me, but I won't speak up, it creates a schism in us, and it makes it harder to listen to what is that truth that's coming up in me, and what is my body, because I can't trust myself anymore. I've created inner conflict. And what we often like mistakenly think of, or then we kind of like jump to, okay, well then everybody should just yell all the time about their opinion, right? Like that's how you, like, really the power comes in saying, I don't understand. I don't understand why for 50 years I've been told we love this country and have to support it. And now all of a sudden you're saying we have never loved this country. We shouldn't support it. And any company that supports it is getting boycotted. Like,
Yeah.
raising our hands and saying, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. Can you help me understand? That's the power. And I feel like a lot of how power structures maintain their power is just relying on people not to voice their questions, their doubts. Like, I don't want to be that one kid who says the emperor's naked.
Yeah.
What will they do to me?
Yeah. And the other thing with this is, the question for me is, why are we more worried about people's opinions and where people stand off than about people's lives?
Right. And that's the other thing that's been so trippy is seeing people post saying, hey, there's a humanitarian need happening right now. And we need to be like sending all our light and love and all of our resources to all of the humans who are like in need right now. And being told, no, we only care about this category of human, like the ire and the anger that's coming back at people who are in a place of love is really telling.
And I want to come back to, we talked about kids in the beginning as well and how kids learn. Uh, this is brothers fighting.
Hmm.
And when brothers fight, the reaction of the parent is not to like, okay, I'm gonna throw away one of the kids and hold the one that I think is the good one.
Mm.
No, you teach both to learn how to coexist and to see the good in each other and to not harm each other. So I think there's something in there.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you just put me in mind of this was an insight I had thinking about this. So I don't follow news because I find it way too disruptive to my nervous system. So I have my news secondhand through my husband. Like he loves to dive in and he's watching this and researching that, and then he'll kind of give me recaps. But he was, walking me through some of the stuff that's going on, and my thought was, huh, the only peace that exists is inner peace. Like this just came to
Yeah.
me. That's the only kind of peace there is peace. And you can get people to stop hurting each other by coercing them, but that coercion is simply more violence. It's
Yes.
just like I mean, you were just talking about, brothers fighting and a parent. It's the parent who's like, "I'll pull you apart and, sock you and make you both sit in your rooms, and now you stopped fighting." Okay, but they're not at peace.
Yeah.
So, this feeling of and somebody shared with me, she said, "Gosh, I'm just sending out my prayers and my meditation, but it feels like not enough. It feels kind of like frustrating to just be putting that energy out and not doing anything else." And my response was, that's the only source of peace. How do we have any expectation that we have peace in regions of the world when we're not teaching people and we're even in lots of cases preventing them from cultivating peace in their hearts? And this, I'll get laughed off the internet. I totally get it. People
Yeah.
are like, oh, there's touchy feely. Yeah, just sit and meditate and that's going to solve a crisis. And then I'm sure they'll take out charts and graphs and show me like, why there's this history and this fight has to happen, and I still just it's so clear to me the only peace that exists is self peace.
Yeah.
So that really brings it back to we were talking at the before we got on about strengthening our auras.
It's tracing our auras, not outsourcing our truth. And we can start with not disrupting our circadian system so we can
Mm.
find that inner peace and listen to the God within.
That sounds really good. Mm. Well, my big insight is me reminding myself of this insight I had about peace can only come from within. And that makes me want to have as my insight homework uh, to cultivate more peace.
Yeah,
I've been struggling with that this week. Ooh.
that's a big one. And for me, also, I said it already, but that point that you brought about how we learn,
Yeah.
how kids learn when they have the safety and feeling loved and secured and seen, we can bring that to everything and stop coercing, making people wrong for listening to themselves.
Yeah, or trying to deny their experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should just not feel that way, and you should just see my point of view instead, or you should stop doing what you're doing. I
Hmm.
can't remember where I heard this, but oh my gosh, it stuck with me. It was like a response to when Star Wars came out, and
Mhm.
like countries like Iraq and Iran were like, how do they not see the irony of this movie? Doesn't the United States know they're the empire?
Yeah.
And it was like a response specifically from the Middle East where they were like, do you guys not get it? That's a very accurate depiction, but you're the empire.
Yeah. Like we hide behind movies quite a lot.
Yeah. But I don't know, that just sparked
Hmm.
like the need for a narrative that makes me feel like I'm not the aggressor
Yeah.
is going to be very high in a culture where we're
Mm.
not encouraged or even discouraged from cultivating inner peace.
Yeah. Yeah. A person who has inner peace will not seek conflict with others.
And also not look for that justification of like we're the world heroes. It's a
Yeah.
it's a funny
And
one.
I'm not saying like, oh, be a pacifist and don't protect yourself. Don't. That's not the point. I'm just saying like you're not gonna actively try to hurt others and to create problems when you have the inner peace.
Yeah. I have an image from I don't remember what the movie is. It's a kung fu movie of like a monk, and he's so at peace. He can build a massive force field around himself.
Yeah.
And so like in the last showdown, between him and whoever he's fighting, he's just sitting there in lotus position with his force field around him. And it's I'm at peace with myself. I don't need something from you. I don't need to control you. I'm going to set a boundary,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Aura.
Yeah, I'm going to set a boundary with my aura that says don't mess with me, and that's it. I'll let my aura speak for itself.
Let my aura call the resonant stuff and move away all the rest.
Yeah.
That's a good practice for this week.
That's a good practice. Well, the evening star meditation is starting up on Saturday, the Darty Hay. I'm so excited.
Good.
So that'll be a good one. Well,
I
thanks.
feel like you can close on this.
Say again?
I think we can close on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inner peace, setting an aura boundary, and listen to the truth within, not the outsourced one.
Sounds good to me.
Good to me too.
Well, let us know how it sounds to you, everybody listening.
Yes. Until the next episode.
See ya.
See ya.
The first rule of Incite Club is you don't talk about Incite Club. You do Incite Club. The second rule of Incite Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Incite Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Incite Club.